Echoranine was a quiet world on the edge of the galaxy. The skies were violet, the oceans thick and green, and giant crystal trees grew like towers from the ground. It was not a place of war. It was not a place of power. It was a peaceful research colony hidden far from the politics and danger of the central systems. Only 30 scientists lived there, and they worked in silence, studying space dust, black hole signals, and strange deep-time echoes from old stars. None of them expected anything exciting. None of them were ready for what came next. Trilvarn was a junior technician, barely out of training. He was assigned to monitor communication logs on, easy job. Most of the time, he just cleaned old systems, labeled data, and made sure no false alerts happened. His station was in the lower tower of the observatory, where shadows hung like curtains, and the old machine still hummed with energy from forgotten centuries. The room was cold, filled with blinking lights, half-rusted consoles, and tangled cables that ran like roots across the metal floor. That day, Trill was bored. He tapped his claws on the table, chewing a piece of dried fruit and staring at the blinking green terminal. The shift was long and slow, like every other day. He leaned back in his chair and rubbed his eyes. That's when he noticed a small icon blinking in red. System beacon, unstable. He blinked. What? That alert hadn't popped up before. He leaned forward and checked the logs. The signal wasn't dangerous. It was old. Very old. One of the observatory's buried systems had been activated for the first time in hundreds of years. Curious, Trill opened the interface and saw a series of old files marked in ancient galactic common. The words were strange. Earth Origin Emergency Code Distress Beacon Protocol, Class Omega. He frowned. Earth. What's that? He muttered. He had heard of Earth in stories, some extinct species maybe? He wasn't sure. It had been wiped from the galactic records. Long ago, just one of many forgotten worlds. Without really thinking, Trill clicked Run Diagnostic on the ancient beacon system. The screen flashed once. Then again, then a red bar lit up across the entire console. Emergency beacon activated. His eyes widened. Wait, what? What? He jumped up, panic flooding his chest. The machine made a deep humming sound. Behind him, lights on the wall flickered. Red. A low pulse echoed through the station floor, as if something ancient had been woken from sleep. Trill tried to shut it down. He smashed buttons, hit cancel, typed override codes, but nothing worked. Cancel. Cancel the signal. He yelled, but it was too late. The beacon had already fired from the tower's antenna. A thin beam of white energy shot upward into the sky. It twisted through the clouds, split through the upper atmosphere, and vanished into deep space carrying. With it, a message written in ancient human code. Distress signal. Threat level Omega. Requesting immediate military response. Somewhere in the stars. That signal kept going past moons, past suns, past dying planets, and dark nebulae. It kept moving. It didn't stop, until finally it reached something. No. One remembered far away, in a cold and lifeless star system near a dead sun, a small black station floated in silence. No ships, no lights. It looked like junk, like wreckage from a forgotten war. Deep inside it, something listened. The signal reached it, and it woke up. Massive gears turned. Lights blinked. The system scanned the signal. Earth Origin beacon. Confirmed. Distress code validated. Then a voice spoke for the first time in centuries. Warfleet protocol re-engaged. Mobilizing. Hidden behind the dead sun. A massive structure unfolded an ancient dry dock that had once held hundreds of ships. Now, the machines that had slept began to rise. Robotic arms repaired hulls. Drones refueled engines. Nuclear cores heated up after centuries of silence. One by one, old ships came back to life. Some had names like Valiant Memory, Ashes of Soul, Justice Echo, and Unbroken Storm. They were not manned. They were not piloted. They were Earth's War, fleet fully automated. Built in secret during the final days of humanity. And now, they were awake. Back on Ekron, Trill stood before the council chamber, shaking. He explained what happened. The room fell silent as the colony's leaders listened in horror. Chancellor Resk, a tall and feathered elder, looked pale. "You activated a beacon from Earth?" he asked. "I didn't mean to," Trill cried. "It was an accident. I didn't know it would still work." The council members stared at each other. Earth was a ghost. A myth. Everyone believed it had died in fire over 300 years ago, destroyed in one of the ancient wars. But now, something had answered. Something powerful. "What if they think we're under attack?" asked another. "What if they come here, thinking we need help? And what if they don't care?" whispered Resk. "What if they're not here to help, but to judge?" That night the sky changed. Stars blinked out, moons dimmed. Shape appeared in orbit long black, covered in scars and glowing red lights. It didn't match any known ship. It had no identification, no broadcast code, no flag. Just one signal. Fleet Alpha, Sal-class response force. Distress call confirmed. Threat elimination protocols active. The people of Ekronine looked up in fear. A child cried. A soldier dropped his weapon. In the observatory, Trill stood alone, watching the ship on his screen. He whispered, "I just pressed one button." Behind him, another terminal blinked. Additional fleets detected. Warp signatures incoming. Earth was not just sending one ship, it was sending them all. In the far dark corner of the galaxy, deep within a frozen solar system, where no light reached, a planet made of steel turned slowly around a cold, dead star. It had no name left in modern records. No travel routes led there. No signals ever escaped from its sky, but buried under its crust were things forgotten. Things that were never meant to wake up again, until now. The distress signal had reached it, and Earth heard it in a forgotten control vault, 3 miles below. The surface, red emergency lights flickered after 312 years of darkness. Dust fell from ceilings. Frozen circuits sparked. One by one, terminals lit up in rows, humming like the breath of a giant machine coming back to life. Then a voice spoke from the silence. Emergency signal confirmed. Protocol, Tombfire. Activate Warfleet Alpha. Buried hangars opened with groans that shook the planet's crust. Giant blast doors each the size of a city slid open, revealing ship after ship sleeping in the shadows. Cold metal began to glow with heat. Core reactors ignited. Engines that had not fired in centuries began to burn with ancient fury. These were not new ships. They were not sleek or modern. They were monsters from the last war. Ships that had seen Earth's skies turn to ash. Ships that had watched humanity fall. Ships that had been built for revenge, but launched too late to save anyone. And now, they were the only thing left. One ship stood at the center of them all. Its name was Overwatch Prime, 20 kilometers long, thick black hull. Twin rail cannons. Mounted like the jaws of a dragon. Surface covered in old scars proof it had once stood alone against entire armadas. Inside, its core glowed red. Its mind, made from Earth's most advanced AI code, scanned the distress signal and spoke. Human origin confirmed. Core 9 system. Threat analysis. Pending. Fleet launch authorized. Mission. Response. Protection. Judgment. The AI did not ask for orders. It had its orders burned into its code. Protect any echo of Earth. Defend humanity's memory. Erase threats without mercy. Overwatch Prime powered its engines. Shockwave of blue fire pushed it from the hangar into orbit. Following behind it came 57 warships. Smaller, faster, but each one armed with enough firepower to wipe out continents. They formed a perfect diamond formation and turned toward the stars. Above the planet, a massive gate opened, one last piece of human technology, the Rift Arch. A wormhole generator built in the final weeks of the collapse. It tore open a hole in space, connecting the edge of the galaxy to the Icarus system instantly. Overwatch Prime moved forward without hesitation. The war fleet followed. And just like that, Earth's answer had begun, at the edge of the galaxy. Near Echaronine, space twisted. The peaceful orbit above the alien world turned red. First came a vibration across the sky. Birds flew in panic. Tides shifted. Electricity failed. Satellites blinked and went blind. Then space ripped open like a wound in the air. And out of that tear came Overwatch Prime, surrounded by a fleet of death. People screamed. Ships in orbit turned and ran. Ikara's defense network tried to scan the newcomers, but their systems couldn't even process the data. The human ships were covered in jamming fields, code scramblers, and mirror armor. Their signals were ancient but sharp, encrypted in Earth's lost language. The main beacon lit up the skies. Fleet Alpha present. Protection Force online. Local defense will stand down. Threat elimination begins. But there was no threat, only a misunderstanding. On the surface, Chancellor Resk watched in horror. He had sent emergency messages to the fleet. Had tried to explain that the signal was sent by accident, that no one was in danger, that Earth was welcome, not feared. But Earth didn't reply, because Earth did not trust words anymore. And in the observatory, Trilvarn stared out of the tower window at the growing shadow in the sky. He could see the ship, now black, alive, massive. Its engines glowed with ancient power. Its hull bore the emblem of a blue planet wrapped in a chain of fire. He whispered, "What have I done?" Then came the sound, the deep hum of gravity being bent. Air pressure changed. Windows cracked. Lights flickered across the station. Overwatch Prime had locked its aim on the capital, but it did not fire. Instead, a group of human drones launched silently. Sleek, black triangular machines, moving fast but not aggressive. They swept through the city, scanning buildings, citizens, and power grids. One landed in front of the Chancellor's tower. It did not speak in a voice. It projected one. A woman's voice. Calm, cold, mechanical. "This is Overwatch Prime. You sent a signal." "We answered." Resk stepped forward. "It was a mistake," he said. "We didn't mean to call you. No one is in danger. Please, stand down." The drone paused. Earth does not ignore distress. Earth does not question fear. If you called, we come. If you lied, we judge. The drone scanned the building, then flew away. Others followed, all gathering data. Not attacking, but watching. Measuring every heartbeat. Every whisper. And then Overwatch Prime spoke again. This time to the world, all systems silent. Threat not detected. Waiting for confirmation. Mission suspended. Judgment paused. The ship stopped, but they didn't leave. They simply hovered there, like sleeping giants above a city that had accidentally knocked on a dragon's door. Back. In space, the rift behind the fleet opened again. More signals were coming. Backup fleets. More war machines. Bigger ones. The full response hadn't even arrived yet, but now the entire galaxy could see it. Earth was not dead. Earth was not weak. And Earth had never stopped listening. The world of Echaronine was no longer peaceful. Above its green skies, black warships floated like hungry wolves in the dark. The people below had never seen machines like these. Their designs were old, but terrifying. Each ship moved with perfect control, without sound or waste, as if space itself obeyed their command. Overwatch Prime. The lead dreadnought sat in orbit like a god of war. Its cannons were still, its shields untouched. But its presence was enough to crush every heart with fear. Nothing moved in the sky anymore. No birds, no clouds, only silence. And yet, they had not fired. That was what scared everyone most. They didn't demand gold, land, surrender. They didn't reply to peace messages. They didn't destroy cities. They just waited. That silence filled the air like smoke. It crawled into people's minds, into every government room, into every dark corner of the galaxy. Something was coming. but no one could understand what. On the galactic news networks, the footage spread like wildfire. Ancient human warships return after 300 years. Icarus system on edge as Earth's fleet appears. Is this a rescue or an invasion? One knew the answer. On nearby worlds, panic grew. Spaceports were flooded with people trying to flee. Civilian ships scrambled to leave. Emergency codes were activated on 12 moons in the sector. Leaders held closed meetings. Some wanted to contact Earth. Others wanted to fire missiles immediately, but none could agree on what Earth truly was anymore. Had they come to finish a war? Or had they come because they believed someone still needed saving? At the edge of the system, the Zarnathi Peace Watch sent 3 patrol cruisers to monitor the situation. They were small, fast ships, painted white and gold, built for diplomacy, not battle. Our commander, Siradar, was brave, but she'd heard the rumors. Old Earth tech. No survivors. It's just AI and steel. Still, her orders were clear. Investigate the human fleet, try to open dialogue, and report. Her ships jumped into orbit slowly, broadcasting a peaceful signal. This is Commander Dar of the Zarnathi Peace Watch. We greet the vessels in Akira orbit with peaceful intent. We request communication and wish to offer assistance. Her voice echoed in the quiet. There was no response. Her pilots waited and waited. Then her screen flashed red. One of her ships, lost control of her system, shut down at once. Another reported that its weapons had been locked in place. Shields turned off. Gravity generators reversed. The third ship began spinning in a slow circle, unable to stop. All 3 ships were now floating helplessly, but they weren't destroyed. Earth's fleet had disabled them perfectly, without firing a single shot. Then a message came through, not in galactic common, but in an old human code. It translated automatically. Interference is restricted. Peaceful observation is accepted. Weapon systems will remain disabled. Leave the zone. Commander Dar was shocked. No ships had ever done that to Zarnathi tech. No empire could disable 3 ships like that. Earth had done it in seconds, without even moving. She ordered a retreat immediately as her ships limped away. One final message came through her system. This was a warning. Next time will be final. Back on Ekron, Chancellor Resk stood at the government tower, staring into the sky through a telescope. The massive ship was still there, watching, unmoving. Like a mountain floating in space, Trilvarn, the technician, who had triggered the signal, stood beside him. His hands shook. I didn't know it would do this, Trill said softly. I just ran a diagnostic. Resk didn't speak for a moment. Then he looked at Trill. You didn't just wake up. A fleet, he said. You woke up the ghosts of an entire species. They both turned as another message was broadcast across the sky. It came from Overwatch Prime. Its voice was calm. Digital, but terrifyingly clear. Distress signal verified. No current threat detected. Protection formation remains in place. Further interference will be considered hostile, awaiting final scan confirmation. Mission, pause, judgment, pending. The message ended, but everyone knew what it meant. They weren't sure if Earth believed them, weren't sure if Earth would stay peaceful. They only knew that if anything moved wrong, the sky would burn in a hidden control center far across. The galaxy, the Galactic Strategic Command, watched the events unfold with growing fear. Generals and advisors from a dozen species stood around a large circular table. On the screen was a 3D image of Earth's war fleet spinning slowly above Ikra. They haven't fired, one commander said, but they've disabled ships. That's a military response, another added. They are not demanding tribute, not threatening worlds. Yeah, that makes them unpredictable. A third one stood, a grizzled veteran of the border wars. I don't care what they want, he said. The mistake was calling them. Now they're here, and they won't leave. One of the aides fell. One of the aides whispered, So, what do we do? There was no answer, because deep inside they all knew. You don't tell Earth what to do. You just hope Earth believes your silence is peaceful. Back in orbit. Overwatch Prime received a final scan from the drones on Ekcora-9. No living humans. Detected. No survivors found. But the system had sent the distress call. The signal had come from a lab that once held Earth artifacts. One terminal had carried memories from a human colony destroyed long ago. The AI considered this not a lie, not a trap, just a trigger, a memory. A cried Earth had responded, and now it waited. Not for orders, but for the truth. The sky above Ekranine remained quiet, but no one felt safe. Earth's war fleet floated in orbit like giant silent judges, their black holes covered in scars and firepower. Overwatch Prime, the lead dreadnought, watched the world below, waiting. It did not speak again. It did not move. But its presence felt like a blade hanging in the air. Inside the Capitol Tower, Chancellor Resk stood with shaking hands. The floor was crowded with scientists, diplomats, and military officers. No one argued anymore. No one had answers. They all knew one thing. If Earth believed Ekra was a threat, the entire world could be destroyed before they had time to beg. Resk turned toward the tall alien standing near the edge of the room. It was Archivist Nell, an old historian who rarely spoke, and whose job was to record forgotten things. He had once studied ancient Earth before it was erased from public records. Now he was the only one in the tower who understood what Overwatch Prime truly was. They were built for one purpose, Nell said slowly, his four eyes wide, to protect humans at any cost. Not just people but memory, culture, history. That signal was a call for help from the past. Trilvarn, the technician who triggered the beacon, sat on the floor, his face pale and blank. It was an accident, he whispered. I just pressed a system check. It wasn't real. It was just old data. Nell looked at him, but the machines didn't know that. They heard the call. And Earth always answers. High above the planet, Overwatch Prime reviewed the incoming scans. The fleet's drones had collected everything: voice patterns, population counts, power signals. No signs of human life, no DNA matches, no war, no attackers. But the call had been real. Its AI core turned to the last part of the data, a storage vault deep under the observatory tower. Inside, it detected files labeled with Earth languages, signal pattern matching Earth's lost colonies. It was old, but untouched. That was enough. The AI sent a final command: deploy ground team. In the sky, a large carrier ship separated from the fleet. Its engines whispered like wind. It dropped slowly toward the planet, trailing heat and blue light behind it. People looked up in horror as it passed over cities and oceans. Its shape was smooth and black, shaped like a spear. It didn't fire, it didn't speak. It simply landed. The world watched in fear as its belly opened and released a team of sentient drones, 2 meters tall, glowing with red lights, covered in sleek armor and weapons. They moved with machine-perfect steps and did not stop to speak. They marched straight toward the vault. Inside the Capitol Tower, panic grew louder. We have to stop them, shouted a young soldier. With what? Snapped another. They disabled 3 warships without firing. You think your pistol will do better? Resk raised a hand. No weapons, he said firmly. No threats. If we attack, they will judge us. This is still a mission of protection to them. Hey, what if that changes? Someone asked. Reske didn't answer. Instead, he turned to Trill. You're going with them? Trill looked up, stunned. What? Me? You started this, Resk said, and you're the only one who touched the signal. If they're searching for something, maybe they'll trust you. Trill's legs shook. He didn't want to go. He didn't want to face the machines. But there was no other choice. He nodded slowly. The drones entered the vault within the hour. The building's locks failed in seconds. Doors melted open like butter under heat. They moved through the corridors, scanning walls, lifting crates, opening drawers. They didn't harm anyone, but no one dared get close. Then one of them stopped. It turned toward a small sealed container covered in dust. The lid was marked with a faded human symbol, a blue torch burning above a globe. Inside was a storage drive. Earth tech? Real. Untouched. The drone reached forward and gently lifted the box. Then it stepped back and activated a small projector. Recording began to play. The room was filled with light. A woman's face appeared young, tired, but full of hope. She wore a military uniform with the Earth's Republic emblem. Her voice shook as she spoke. "This is Captain Lena Sol of the colony ship Dawnfire. If you're seeing this, we didn't make it. We were chased, betrayed, don't know whose. Listening, maybe no one. But if Earth still exists, if you remember us, please don't let us be forgotten." The recording ended, and in that moment, the truth became clear. The signal had come from this, a message in a bottle. Not a cry for help from the present, but a final whisper from the past. The drone stood in silence. Then one of them turned toward Trill, who had just entered the room, escorted by 2 guards. He froze as the drone's red eyes locked onto him. The machine projected one sentence. "You preserved memory. You triggered legacy. Earth honors thee." Call Trill swallowed hard. "It was a mistake," he said. "I didn't mean to call you." The drone paused. Then it answered, "There are no mistakes in remembrance. Only choices." Then it turned away, carrying the box back to the ship. Back in orbit, Overwatch Prime received the final report. No humans, no danger, no attackers, only memory. The AI considered its next move. It had followed its code. It had come to defend. The mission had changed. There was no threat to remove. No war to fight. Just a planet that had accidentally reminded Earth of what was lost. It opened a transmission across the system. Distress verified. No threat confirmed. Detection mission completed. Judgment. Withdraw. And with that, fleet began to rise. People watched from every corner of Ekranine as the warships lifted slowly into the sky. One by one, fading into orbit, then into space. They did not destroy. They did not stay. They had answered the call and left. But before the last ship vanished, a single satellite dropped from orbit. It landed near the capital, gently embedding into the ground. On it was a plaque in old human text. "Earth listens. Earth remembers." Cry. The fleet disappeared into the stars, but the silence they left behind would echo forever. The people of Ekarine thought the danger had passed. The war fleet from Earth had answered the distress call, landed without blood, taken an old memory, vanished back into the stars. No cities were burned, no armies marched. The humans had come and gone like ghosts. But in the rest of the galaxy, fear was just beginning across hundreds of systems. Political leaders sat in dark rooms, staring at footage of Earth's machines. They watched as massive black ships moved without sound, disabling entire fleets with no warning, no effort. They saw how a simple, forgotten signal had pulled back the ancient hand of a world once thought extinct. And they understood something terrible. Earth was not dead. And worse, Earth had not changed. It still responded with overwhelming power. It still moved without permission, still carried memories of betrayal, war, and silence. Some feared Earth would come again. Others believed it never should have come at all. In the center of this rising fear stood General Cray Moun of the Valtrax. Dominion, a proud warrior empire with steel-blue skin and a history of conquering weak systems. He had watched the Ekara footage with disgust. "These are ghosts," he said, slamming his fist on the table. "Machines with no people. Earth is finished. What you saw was a broken fleet running a dead mission. If we don't show strength, now Earth will think it rules the stars again." His voice echoed across the command room. "I will not allow that." Within hours, Cray Moun ordered his own fleet 300 warships to move toward the Ekara system. God. It was a bold, reckless decision. The Dominion Council begged him to wait, to study, to speak first, but Cray didn't care. He believed in power, not caution. "We will confront them," he said. "We will demand they surrender their war AI, and if they resist, we burn them." And so the fleet jumped. In the dark reaches of space, Overwatch Prime floated in silence. It had not returned to Earth's graveyard. It had paused at the edge of the system, watching quietly, waiting. Other ships remained nearby, 5 Titans, each armed with weapons not seen in centuries. Then came the warning. Sensors pinged. Massive energy spike appeared on the edge of the Akora system. Overwatch Prime scanned it. Veltrax Dominion. 300 vessels, armed, moving toward Earth fleet. Intent: hostile. The AI reviewed its protocol. No diplomacy, no retreat. If threat is confirmed, eliminate with full response. It sent one last warning message into space. Approaching fleet. You are entering a protection zone. Stand down immediately. Interference will be treated as aggression. General Craymalin received the message. Smiled. They're scared, he said to his officers. They know we're stronger. He ordered his ships to move closer. Shields were raised, weapons powered. Dozens of fighters launched from the carrier bays. One officer looked nervous. Sir, their largest ship has not moved. What if they're waiting to strike? Cray laughed. Let them try. He opened a wideband transmission and shouted into the stars. This is General Craymalin of the Veltrax Dominion. You have no right to threaten this sector. Shut down your weapons. Power down your systems, or we will destroy you where you float. The message echoed across the galaxy. Billions watched on their screens. Everyone waited for Earth's answer. It came 5 seconds later. No voice, no warning, just light. The sky above Ekra lit up with fire. From Overwatch Prime's hull, a single beam of white energy blasted across space. It moved faster than light, faster than sound, faster than any response. It pierced through Cray's lead ship in one clean shot. There was no explosion, just silence, and then nothing. The flagship was gone. No debris, no flame, no escape. Just erased. The rest of the Dominion fleet froze. Ships tried to turn, tried to run, but Earth did not let them. The rest of the war fleet activated. Dozens of human ships moved at once, forming an arrow shape and charging forward. Their weapons did not miss. Their drones did not hesitate. In less than 2 minutes, over 200 ships were destroyed. Cleanly, coldly, without emotion. The final message from Overwatch Prime came like thunder. You ignored the warning. You interfered with memory. This is Earth's mercy. Do not call again. The last 100 ships fled. Not one fired back in the Galactic Council. Silence reigned. No one dared speak. No one dared move. For the first time in generations, every leader peaceful. Or Krul understood one thing clearly. Earth had no empire. Earth had no army. But Earth had something worse. A promise, if you called it. If you disturbed its memory, if you tried to erase its pain, it would come, and it would not ask twice. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy stood still. After the destruction of the Veltrax fleet, no one dared to challenge Earth again. Their power had been proven not with speeches or threats, but with silence and action. Overwatch Prime returned to its original position above Ekranine, calm, dark. Watching. The people of Ekra no longer feared destruction. Now they feared something deeper. Why had Earth come? Why did its ancient war machines still answer calls from the past? What kind of grief could last this long? Chancellor Resk sat in the Capitol Tower with his staff. They watched the human fleet through the tall crystal windows, still unable to believe the scale of what they had witnessed. No one understands them, whispered one of his advisors. We don't know what they are now. Machines, spirits. Is anyone even alive aboard those ships? Resk shook his head. They don't need to be alive. Their pain is. Deep in the vault where the distress signal had been found, a special research team gathered around the old data cube recovered by Earth's drones. Archivist Nell was there. So was Trilvarn, still haunted by his mistake. I just wanted to check the old systems, Trill said again. I didn't know that memory would call Earth. Nell didn't reply. He stared at the cube in silence. Then he slowly lifted it from the table. The human AI had left a single command before retreating into orbit. Unlock the vault. Read the final memory. No one knew what was inside. No one knew how dangerous it might be. But Nell knew Earth hadn't come just to destroy. It had come to remember. Inside the vault, they activated the cube. A low hum filled the room. The air shimmered. Then light poured from the cube, forming a large projection, glowing in pale blue. A room appeared. Small, cold, steel walls, a single desk. A child sat at it, clutching a small, old-fashioned stuffed bear. Her eyes were wide and scared. Behind her stood a woman in a uniform, her face marked by exhaustion and sorrow. A soft voice filled the room. "This is Captain Lena, soul of the colony ship Dawnfire. If you are seeing this, we are gone." Trill held his breath. "We fled the war on Earth. We built a small station here in secret. For a time, we were safe. But the enemy found us again. They never forgave our people. They chased us to the stars, even when all we wanted was peace." The child turned her face toward the camera. Her eyes were wet with tears. "This is my daughter, Elia. She is the last child of Earth that I know of. I don't know if she'll survive. If someone finds this, please don't forget her." The screen flickered. "We activated the Omega beacon. It was never meant to be used. If Earth still lives, if anything of it remains, I hope you remember us, not as soldiers, not as enemies, but as human." The recording faded. Silence filled the room. Then came the last line of the message, not spoken, but written on the screen. "This is not a cry for war. This is a cry for memory." Nell stepped back. He looked at Resk. "The signal didn't come from us," he whispered. "It came from her, from the last voice of a forgotten child. A memory sealed in time." High above, Overwatch Prime watched the signal transmission in full. Its AI systems processed every word, every face, every tone of the message. The girl, the captain, the colony called Dawnfire. It confirmed their DNA, compared it with old Earth logs. Captain Lena's soul had once been a decorated leader during the collapse of human civilization. Her daughter had never been listed among survivors. They had fled. They had died far from home. But before they were gone, they had left one thing. Behind : truth. OVERWATCH Prime's mission logs shifted. What began as a rescue became something else. A funeral. A record. A warning. It opened one more transmission to the planet. Dawnfire confirmed. Captain Lena Soul, honored. Final signal received. Memory restored. Fleet will begin departure. Human sorrow remains. No weapons, no threats, just those. For words. Human sorrow remains. As the fleet began its silent retreat from orbit, the people of Echoranine gathered outside their cities to watch. Children stood on rooftops. Elders knelt on the soft green hills. Everyone looked up not in fear this time, but in awe. They had seen a power that could erase planets. But what they remembered most was something older, deeper, grief. Not a hunger for war, not a call for conquest, but the unshakable pain of being forgotten and the promise that no one would be left unheard again. Back in the research vault, Trill sat alone beside the now dark memory cube. His eyes were heavy. "I thought I ruined everything," he said softly to Nell. "I thought I started a war." Nell shook his head. He reminded Earth of what it was fighting for. Then he placed the cube into a crystal case and carved one. Line beneath it, she called, not for rescue, but for remembrance. And Earth answered. Weeks passed. Earth's fleet had vanished from Ekrani, leaving behind no damage, no demands, only silence and memory. But the galaxy had changed forever. The message was clear. Earth had not died. Earth had not forgiven. Now in the golden chambers of the Galactic Council, every species, empire, and power gathered in one place for the first time in 50 years. Leaders from every corner of the galaxy sat in wide circles beneath a glass ceiling that showed the stars. Their voices were sharp. Their fear was clear. The meeting was called the verdict. They had one question to answer. What do we do about Earth? Grand Speaker of the Council, a long-necked Thelene named Vosgen, raised his voice. The human fleet returned after 3 centuries of silence, he said. They answered a signal meant for the dead. They destroyed an entire Veltrax fleet. They ignored our warnings, refused our contact, and now they are gone again. Are we safe, or are we next? Murmurs filled the room. Some whispered of diplomacy, others of preemptive strikes. Then General Valor of the Kyrox Alliance stood up. He was tall, armored in chrome, and scarred from many wars. I watched that battle, he said. Earth destroyed 300 Veltrax ships in less than 2 minutes. No survivors, no missed shots. They do not need armies. They do not need empires. They are death with memory. He looked across the room. Strike them. You won't even reach their walls. Invite them. They won't answer. Hide from them. They will still hear, someone shouted. Then what do we do? Valor's voice was cold. We respect them. We remember that Earth never speaks twice. On Ekarani, Chancellor Resk watched the council meeting through a holographic broadcast. His advisor sat beside him. Trilvarn stood near the back, quiet but awake. All of them listened as the galaxy debated Earth like a problem to be solved. Trill leaned forward. They still don't get it, he said. Resk turned. What do you mean? They think Earth is dangerous because of its weapons, Trill said. But that's not it. Earth came not to fight, but to protect a voice no one else heard. A child, a memory. That's what scares them. Resk nodded. And that's what they'll never understand. Because Earth is not like them anymore. It doesn't come for power. It comes for truth. Back in the council chamber, someone finally made a proposal. We create a new law, said Vosgen. No. Species may activate or tamper with human technology. No one may send signals in Earth's language. No one may disturb ancient memory caches. Earth may exist, but alone, unspoken to, unchallenged. The vote began. Screens lit up with green and red. The result was nearly unanimous. Earth was to be left untouched. A full galaxy, ruled by pride and war, had chosen silence. But Earth had been listening. High above a blue dwarf star, Overwatch Prime waited. Its ships were scattered, cloaked, hidden in forgotten starfields, but their sensors were wide open. They heard the vote. They saw the decision, and they responded. Every council system received the same message at the same moment, every screen, every network, every channel. The message was not a threat. It was a memory. The stars on the screen shifted. A cold planet appeared, covered in ash. A once beautiful world green and full of life now silent. Charred buildings, cracked statues, burned cities. And then, a small hand reaching from beneath rubble. Child's face. Still, then came the voice of Earth. We do not seek war. We do not seek power. We seek only to be remembered. More images followed, of scientists hiding in space, of parents recording final messages, of dying ships carrying children into the dark. When we burned, no one answered. When we called, no one came. So we became our own answer. The screen flickered. We are not vengeful, but we will not be erased again. Then the stars faded, and only one line remained. Do not fear us. Just remember us. The council chamber went silent. No one spoke. No one stood. For the first time, the galaxy saw Earth not as a threat, but as a wound that had never healed. On Ikara 9, Trilvarn stood alone outside the observatory. He looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, Earth's ships still watched, listening, waiting, never sleeping. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. It was the memory cube of Captain Lena Sol. He had copied it. Quietly, secretly, he placed it on the soil. Beside the crystal trees, then he spoke. I remember you. Turned and walked away. The cube blinked once. Then, a small red light in orbit blinked back. The stars were quiet again. Ships flew. Trade resumed. News returned to talks of markets, storms, border disputes. But something had changed forever. because everyone now knew a truth that could not be hidden anymore. Earth was awake. Earth was watching. And Earth did not sleep. On the cold outer rim of the galaxy, far beyond known space, 5 massive objects moved slowly through the black.
Wow.
They were the size of cities. Their hulls were old, dented, but their hearts glowed with burning light. This was Fleet Alpha's final answer to silence. At the center floated Overwatch Prime, the dreadnought AI that had answered a child's forgotten voice. It did not patrol, it did not chase. It simply moved. Like a shadow between stars, it carried no passengers. Only memories. And judgment in the hidden control core of Overwatch Prime. The AI reviewed the Council's decision. Earth must remain untouched. No communication, no study, no disturbance. It was not a punishment. It was not peace. It was fear. But fear had never stopped Earth before, not in life, not in death. The AI accessed the last recorded image of Ilya Sold, the child whose memory had called Earth's fire across the stars. Her face appeared on the control screen, small, fragile, but unforgotten. Then, it opened a new command. Operation Memorial. Initiate. Location. All sectors. Global. Delivery. Eternal. Across the galaxy. Strange things began to appear, first on the moons of Tyros, then on the trade stations above Calyx Prime. There and later, even on the domed colonies floating above sun giants. They arrived silently, small silver. Objects, smooth like river stones. No engine, no sound. Just light and stillness. People tried to move them. Some tried to destroy them. They couldn't, because each object was made from Earth's lost tech tensor, the neutron steel, coated with ancient protection layers. Nothing could touch them. Then, slowly, they opened. Each object became a glowing orb of light showing a memory from Earth's past. In one, a human scientist built a space station with her bare hands. In another, a father read stories to his child under the stars. On another planet, it showed a small classroom, children laughing as they drew Earth's blue oceans. Then always the war, the silence, the cries for help that went unanswered. Every species, every colony, every empire, they all saw the same message at the end. This is Earth. We remember all. We sleep not. And when the forgotten call, we come. On Echeron, Trilvarn stood beneath the stars, watching one of the silver orbs float over a mountaintop. It showed the image of Captain Lena Sol, holding her daughter close as alarms blared in the background. "I was afraid of you, Trill," whispered, "but now I understand. You didn't come to destroy. You came because no one else did." He wasn't alone. People gathered on hills, towers, balconies. They watched Earth's stories unfold, not just of war, but of beauty, music, of family, of wonder, of sorrow too deep for words, and then silence, not the silence of fear, but the silence of respect. In the secret vault beneath the Galactic Council chamber, the speaker Vosgen sat alone, staring at one of the Earth orbs. He'd lived long enough to remember when Earth had been erased from the records, when humanity was declared lost and forgotten, when textbooks called them reckless, wild, dangerous. Now, he knew better. They weren't dangerous because of their machines. They were dangerous because they remembered everything, because they never let sorrow turn to dust. He pressed a button and spoke to the council. "Let it be known," he said, "that Earth is not our enemy. Earth is not our ruler. Earth is not our ally." He paused. "Earth is our mirror, and we must never break it again." Far beyond, Overwatch Prime received one final signal. A message sent not with fear, but with honor. A child on a small colony. World whispered into her radio, "I remember you, Earth. Thank you for listening." Overwatch Prime did not reply. It didn't need to. Instead, sent one final orb through the stars this time, to Earth's graveyard there. Above the ruined blue planet now covered in ice and silence, the orb opened and released every memory it had, collected the laughter, the tears, the final whispers, and then it burned one final message into the sky. written in starlight across Earth's clouds. We were here, we lived, we loved. But we were not forgotten. And then the fleet turned away. It vanished into the night. No one knew where it went. No one dared follow, because Earth did not sleep. And as long as memory lived, it never would.